When Land Rover was building the Range Rover back in the 60s, it wanted to keep development a big secret. So it named the prototype Velar, from the Latin word velare, to hide. 50 years on and Land Rover has resurrected the name for the model that's going to sit in between the entry-level Evoque and the Range Rover Sport. It's also being offered as a more road bias alternative to cars like the BMW X4, Mercedes GLC Coupe, Porsche Macan and even the Jaguar F-Pace. So let's start with how it drives. Now, as we've already touched upon, greater emphasis has been made on making the Velar drive well on road, but that doesn't mean that its off-road capabilities have been compromised. It comes with all the latest 4x4 tech like terrain response and hill descent control, and all versions get four-wheel drive. As capable as it is though off the beaten track, it's really not designed for that. It's being pitched as the most dynamic Range Rover ever made. Underneath, it shares a lot with the Jaguar F-Pace, and it is more comfortable and refined than its sibling, even on standard steel springs. Opt for the air suspension on the V6 models and the ride becomes even more cosseting, with surprisingly little roll on tight bends. There's a wide range of petrol and diesel engines on offer too, starting with a 2-litre turbo diesel with either 178 or 237 brake horsepower. There's also a 3-litre V6 with nearly 300 brake. Petrol-wise, there's a 247 brake horsepower, 2-litre 4-cylinder and two 3-litre 6-cylinder options with either 296 or 375 brake horsepower. The best blend of performance and economy though has to be the 3-litre V6 diesel. Drive it carefully and you should return around 44 miles per gallon with emissions of just 167 grams per kilometre of CO2. One thing's for sure, the Velar certainly looks the part. The sloping roofline and sleek headlamps really make it stand out from other ranges. The grille also doesn't look like it's been designed for a Premier League footballer, and the door handles pop out when the car's unlocked, then run flush against the bodywork when it's in motion. That's something we'll see a lot more of in Range Rovers of the future. The low roofline, which gives it such presence, does restrict cabin space though. There is a lot of room up front, but in the back it's a little more restrictive. However, the boot size is decent with over 670 litres with the rear seats up, 1,731 when you fold them down. There's some neat touches in the boot too, like the handle that lowers the back seats. There's also a little control panel that will raise and lower the suspension depending on whether you're carrying heavy items or hitching up a trailer. And one other feature that we've seen on other Range Rovers is the hidden tow bar, which is also available. The Velar's cabin is the first Range Rover to feature a 3-screen layout to offer a minimalist design, and it's available on all but the very basic model. It's all touchscreen, and while it looks very neat, it does take a bit of getting used to. Plus you do end up after a while with fingerprints all over the screens. The screens display everything from sat-nav to Bluetooth, DAB radio, car settings, even heated and massaging seats. But we can't help but feel that the system in some of the German rivals are just that little bit more intuitive. With prices starting at around £45,000, it's not exactly what you'd call cheap. But just because it's not a full-blown Range Rover, don't think it's any less of a car. The Velar is extremely desirable, excellent on the road, and the interior is quite frankly beautiful. If we were to be overly critical, we'd have to say it's not as practical as some of its rivals, and it is expensive even before you start looking at the options list.